Okay, mics are on.
We're going?
We're on.
Okay. Welcome to the Oregon City Regular Meeting for November 28th, 2022. The time now is 7:02, and we will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, you take a roll call of present council.
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Drake?
Here.
Mr. Horniak?
Here.
Mrs. Powell? Here. Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Wallenczak?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Here, also present is Mayor Michael Safarian, City Administrator Joel Major, Clerk Council Tina Evans, Law Director Melissa Papora, Public Service Director Paul Roman, Chief of Police Brandon Began, Fire Chief Dennis Hartman, Assistant Fire Chief Mark Mullins, Assistant Fire Chief Jim Wolf, and Acting Finance Director Nick Roman. Council, first order of business for this evening is the approval of the meeting minutes from November the 7th, 2022 special council meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
I move to accept the minutes as presented from the November 7th, 2022 special council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second, Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Counselor, any objections? Hearing no objections, the meeting minutes from November 7th special council meeting have been accepted. The next thing we will do this evening is the swearing in of our new fire chief, Clayton O'Brien, who will take the oath as the city fire chief from Mayor Michael Safarian.
Thank you, Mr. President. And although we call this a swearing in, it's actually an affirmation. And that's an event where we ask an individual to give their word. And we traditionally do that instead of what the old school was calling swearing in. But an affirmation, once again, is asking an individual to give their word of how they will dedicate themselves to a position. So, Clayton, if you're ready, that's what I got here for today. And I'll make it as easy as I can. And I'd ask you to repeat after me. I, Clayton O'Brien, do hereby affirm
I, Clayton O'Brien, do hereby affirm
that I will support the constitutions
that I will support the constitutions
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
the policies and procedures of the city of Oregon,
the policies and procedures of the city of Oregon,
and I will honestly
and I will honestly
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as the chief
as the chief
of the Oregon Fire and Rescue
of the Oregon Fire and Rescue
Department. And with that, I would welcome you aboard. Although earlier was your first day, today now Clayton is officially sworn in as our fire chief. And the floor is yours. Okay. And I take it it's your son that is presenting this.
I would like to start off by saying I really appreciate my family being here. This is my wife, Bobby, and my daughter, Aislinn, and my son, Ashton. Very blessed to be the next fire chief for the city of Oregon. Huge opportunity here, and I think it's going to be just something absolutely fantastic of what we get to build at the fire department. So really looking forward to working with each and every one of you on the fire department. I know when I look out here in the crowd, I'm not sure which ones are all on the fire department, but I know that there's quite a bit of a presence here. So I do truly appreciate that. And so although I've been saying it all day, this is my first day for the city of Oregon, but I also want to celebrate Chief Hartman for all of him and being that he is in his one day closer to his very last day. So it's a very exciting time. And I just really look forward to continuing to build on the great things that the fire department's already done. So thank you.
And before I give you
Great.
Thank you. Congratulations again. What's that?
Turn that around.
Oh, Denny,
Thank you,
one-
thank you, thank
Denny can turn.
you, thank you.
I will turn this around. Because it's you I want to talk to. To say that this job has offered some of the biggest challenges in my career might be an understatement. But I've enjoyed those challenges. I've got a lot of personal growth from that. I think we've done some really good things. I want to thank you. Oregon is a wonderful employer. And I want to thank you for all your support. And I want to, I promise I won't be here a really long time, but I just want to say a couple things. We have a sign in our training room that says, "I'm not here for me, I am here for we, and we are here for them." And it struck me as that's a principle that I live by, and I think the fire department for the most lives by that. Actually, it's a principle that a city administration would live by as well. And you folks have proven that. There's a lot of political equity in the way the fire in a traditional fire department that we've had here for many years. But you saw that there was a need, and so you went over and got past that political equity and said, "We're not here for me. We're here for we, and we are here for them, and we need to make changes for them." And you made those changes. It was very courageous, and I certainly appreciate that. If you have any questions about whether you did the right thing, we'll just go back to our dedication. The place was packed with citizens beaming with pride of what the city of Oregon has for fire protection. The pipers piped up and our membership walked in. A good percentage of our membership was there. You did the right thing. You've done the right thing. When we did the ceremony of pushing of the truck, part-time, full-time, rookie and salty veteran all went together. They went out there, they got around that truck, some where people could see them, some where people couldn't see them, and they did that together. It symbolized to me, we're all in. You did the right thing. All the people stood, many stood, all cheered and clapped, and they beamed with pride. You did the right thing. Back to that pushing in. There is one thing about that. We had one driver in there. If that driver would have turned the wheel, we'd have crashed into the wall. If that driver put on the brakes, which obviously we had to, if they put on the brakes, we stopped the momentum. So I'm just asking that don't let those few among us that haven't got past the me part yet. I believe they will. They haven't gotten past the me part yet. Let's not let them drive. Let's get them pushing, and then make sure we have the right people driving. Whatever measure of success that has been achieved in my time here is not mine, it's ours. We've done this. I pass the torch to Clayton, and I leave a fire department that's different than I came with. It's not complete. It's not finished. It's not where it needs to be, but it's starting to roll. It's starting to roll, and you've done the right thing. So I'm just going to leave you with, I'm not here for me, I'm here for we, and we are here for them. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. To some of the firemen that are here, if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you could certainly, you could leave now if you want.
Hey, thank you.
See, Denny, take care.
Well, you got to stay.
Where are you going?
Okay, next we have Mrs. Michelle Quilter from the Oregon Jerusalem Township Historical Society to speak us about the society and what they're doing. Michelle?
You know, 50 years ago, my family stood in front of the current council and mayor when my dad was made police chief of Oregon. So what a special night for me to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Mayor, President, Mr. President, members of council, my name is Michelle Quilter, and I'm the president of Oregon Jerusalem Historical Society. I'm not the orator that I once was, so I brought in my team. Cassie Tinta is our media director. She may have to take over for me if my voice weakens out. I'd like to introduce to you Kitty Sternberg, who is our treasurer, Linda Rossler, who is our trustee, along with Sharon Newton and Marcia Hayes. We also have a member on council who is a trustee for the Historical Society, and that is Kathleen Pala. Thank you. Tonight we are here because we're not sure if all of you are as familiar with Oregon Jerusalem Historical Society as you should be. So we have put together for you a nice packet of information that introduces us to you. And I'm going to let Cassie tell you about the left side of the packet.
Good evening, council members. My name is Cassie Tinta. As she introduced me, I'm a little bit of a dork, so bear with me. Okay, so on the side of your packet, you have our little cover sheet for our presentation. Within it, stapled in it, you will find copies of our website, talks about our facility rentals, kind of gives you a quick snapshot of what our online presence looks like. I passed out the folders along with some artifacts that were brought here from Brandville, which is our museum complex. That is the Coy school bell from about the 1940s until 1970s. In the frame with the state of Ohio flag is a constable badge from the 1800s from Oregon Township. And then you also have 2 textbooks that were written and published by Historical Society founder Josephine Fassett. The first volume's in the green one and the white one. So, you know, we want to walk you through this whole entire packet, but really, yeah, you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. She might have to keep doing that for me. Thank you. So Oregon Jerusalem Historical Society was founded in 1963. It wasn't until 1974 that we were actually able to secure a building. And we secured Brandville School. A little history on Brandville School. It was built in 1882. And as you can read about it in the Getting to Know Us, it was a very prestigious building in our area. Once Coy School was built, Brandville School was no longer. So in our packet here, we show you that we have incorporation papers from 1963 and who our founding people were, including Josephine Fassett. And of course, the reason why we're here tonight is because I understand that this is a budget meeting. And the city of Oregon has always been a true partner to the Historical Society. And because of the dollars that you have supplied us with year after year, we have been able to maintain an operational budget. And I thought that it was important for you to know just what we spend our money on. So when you turn the page to the income and expense sheet, you see that we operate our 4 buildings on about $25,000 a year with an all-volunteer board and many people of our community who step up and become members. Of course, our largest income is from you, $7,100 a year. But second to that, nearly $5,000 is received through $15 through $200 memberships. I think that that says a lot for our community. And when you turn the page again, full disclosure, we want you to know what our financial statement looks like. Now, I got to tell you, in January, we had a lot more money in our investment fund. Maybe we'll have more again, huh? By the end of 2023. I think we're all banking on that. And of course, this is our end of year. So we'll start our new membership campaign in January. And we're finishing up our year this year with another main fundraiser, with the money is just coming in for the tour of historic homes, our parade of trees, and our cookies and selfies with Santa. That will all be next Saturday, and we've included a flyer for you on the right side of your packet. You also need to know who we are. We are, and so if you turn the page, I've listed for you our Board of Trustees. As I mentioned, we're all volunteers who work together to provide something very special for our city of Oric. Something that was built by our founders. And this partnership that we've had has been more than 50 years. And in looking for through some of our information, I thought it was fun to just include for you some of the people who were involved in the early years of the Historical Society, and showing you that we've had a partnership with the City of Oregon since 1974, when we did resecure our buildings. And I think you'll have fun reading it. Now, just for prosperity's sake, I had to conclude that even my father-in-law got involved in trying to secure money for the Historical Society. I was kind of proud of that. So, one of the real reasons why we're here, we've not come to the city for major money in almost 30 years. After the renovations were done about 1996, we've been able to maintain our buildings for the last 30 years. But in the second part of this commentary, Linda Rossler is going to show you in some of the repairs that we need to make to our buildings to secure the future of our Historical Society as a gem to our community. Now, we've only had initial estimates, so we can't bring you real dollars. And we also understand that we want you to understand that we are not here for handouts. We intend to raise as much money as we can over the next 1 to 3 years to take care of our buildings. But we're going to need you as a partner, because I'm not sure that we can raise it all. But if you look at the very last page, those are our first estimates on the needs of our buildings. I'd like to now introduce to you Linda Rossler. And she's going to talk a little bit more about our 4-building complex in hopefully a manner that you'll understand a little better than me. But how you can get started, if you'd like to help personally, we've also included a membership form. And we'd love for all of you to become members of the Historical Society in some manner. Linda?
Thank you, Michelle.
Excuse me.
I have a portfolio of pictures, and I have 10 of them. So you know.
You can share.
Okay. So if you look, we'll go picture by picture. I kind of got thrown into buildings because our buildings people are growing a little bit older and have some health issues this year. And
Thank you.
so I was doing rounds and taking care of the landscape. And then as I went around, so first picture is about the bell that is out front. That kind of states its purpose. Next one is our flagship, which is Brandville School. And it was one of the most prestigious because I think it was the only brick building of the schoolhouses. I think the rest were wood. Next is the plaque on the front of Brandville. It is actually on the National Register of Historic Places. It was placed there in 1994, and Brandville was built in 1882. So significantly old building. Next page shows all 4 of our buildings. So Brandville School is the flagship. Behind Brandville is what we call the Carriage House. It has 2 garage doors on it. It has a dormer on the back, so it's actually 2 stories. And then next to the Carriage House is what we call the barn that houses our horses. We don't have to feed them every day, by the way. They'll be out on Saturday if you want to come see them. And then we have our 1-room school. If you've never been in these buildings, we would graciously take you on a tour because I am just amazed about what is in there. It's kind of unbelievable. So I'm going to take you through a tour of the buildings and show you what I found. Had a nice sunny day. So this would be the north side of Brandville School. You can see that there's an addition on the back of the brick building. That houses the restrooms, an elevator to go upstairs, and a kitchen. So that is not new. So technically, we don't have to maintain that as historical because it's actually an addition. So I'll talk in a little bit about that. And you notice there's a chimney that is up at the top too that I'll interject. So next picture is just strictly that back building. Next page is the back of that. And if you take a good look at the wood, there are some imperfections on that. That is wood, that is not siding. They chose to go with the same wood that is on the 1-room school. And the problem we're having with that is that wood was knotty pine and the knots are deteriorating. They've been filled once by Don Charlton and Al Adam. And I just found that out. They filled them 8 years ago. And I have some more interesting pictures of that. So other side of Brandville, and then a good picture of the chimney. We had, what's the company's name, Kitty? Historical Restorations. They're right along the trail, right by downtown. He came out and he was the last person we've had out. And I said, I think that chimney needs attention too, and he agreed. We can't see the western position of that because it's on the rear portion of the building, but I think that wind side on the west side really needs to be retucked. He's happy with the brick, but again, it's the siding on the back. First estimate on siding on the back of that building is $15,000 if we were to put siding on that. And again, there's some imperfections on that one. Next one is the 1-room building, 1-room schoolhouse. Okay, And the interesting part about this is you look at the front, you look at the side, and you look at the other side, and they look fine. Look at the next picture. You see a close-up shot of what some of the imperfection looks like. The next picture shows you the whole back side of the one-room schoolhouse. So if you take a good look at that, it's a mess. And I didn't see this. This is actually, you have to go all the way around the church onto, is it Ansonia? That goes behind the fire department. So we can't get there unless we go all the way around. The fence stops at the corner, which is why we don't really see it very much. So this is that eastern side, and I mentioned the other three sides are fine. Why is the eastern side the bad side? Okay, if you know anything about buildings, which side should be the bad side? The western, the windward side?
Yeah.
Those sides are fine. The eastern side, which should be our best side, is our worst. The guy from the renovation company believes that it's the electrical lines that are there. So you have all the electrical grid lines for that whole strip. It used to be a alley that went back there. So that's where all the lines run. So that's where he feels that we're having our issues, is from the electrical lines. And then there's another picture a little closer up. I hope it makes it through the winter, but we might try to do some repair work. If we were just to fill holes, it would cost us somewhere in the realm of $2,000. That would be before paint. And then I just showed you a proximity picture between First St. Mark's and us and that one-room schoolhouse, and more of the electrical line component. Carriage House is the next picture. Carriage House, again, on that western side, looks fine. Okay? The next picture is the back side. It's not too bad, but the ends are. The next two pictures show you the ends. Okay? If we were to just fix the eastern side of the schoolhouse, which is the really bad side, and the carriage house, the northern end, the bid for that is $19,000. So that's 2 of 8 sides. So we fixed 2 sides for $19,000, and we still have 6 to go. To finish the carriage house and put siding on it, it would be $36,000 because it has that dormer on the back. So it's a relatively big building to finish. And then we still have the schoolhouse left. What do we do with the schoolhouse? The restoration company would recommend that they can get the wood paneling the same. It's that shiplap. And they could do it, but I don't have a bid from them because they just came out right before Thanksgiving. So problem has been getting people out, as I think most people can attest to. It's hard to get anybody to do anything and to get bids. So that's where we're at with the buildings. Besides, we're probably going to have to upgrade our air conditioner because Freon is changed. There's no more Freon, and we do have one of those old air conditioners. So that's going to have to be addressed also. So in the back is just a footprint of Brandville School. By the way, those of you, if you don't remember, Brandville School, or the Historical Society, started in the basement of Star School. Then it moved to Clay Elementary. And then it finally moved to where it's located now. So quite a few major steps. And just over, let's see, 3.721 acres, or 16,000 square feet we are. We're relatively small, but mighty. Any questions?
Council, any questions or comments?
Okay, Michelle, back at you.
I have one just
Yeah.
statement. I remember that bell. I went to Coy School from 62.
Ring it.
1960.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We had to come in for recess then.
So what, just to reiterate, what we're here for tonight is just to reintroduce ourselves to you and to let you know that we're probably going to be talking to you more and more as the year goes on, because we'll keep you quite informed as to our fundraising efforts and our concerns with our buildings, our estimates, and what our needs might be additionally that we cannot do ourselves. Okay?
Thank you, Michelle. Just one question. I think I asked you this before, though. How do you publicize or get the word out there regarding your membership drive?
Sure. Well, we do a mailing. I should turn that over to you on our membership. Let me turn it over to our media director.
So Councilman Zale, to answer your question, up until presently, membership was done through the mail, through word of mouth, through, hey, did you renew your membership? And moving forward, we will continue to utilize those methods, but we're also going to harness mailing online through email and have online memberships. So essentially, it's the form in the back of your folder, correct?
So but I also noticed that you actually do it like a hall rental at times for
Yes.
what, up to 48
venue.
people?
Yes.
Do many people take advantage of that, or is that a difficult thing for you to do, or is that an easy thing to do?
Well, actually, you are going to hear much more from us in the next few years. I took over as president just as COVID was getting started. And now that we're out of COVID, we have a very aggressive plan to make sure that we are very well known in this community. I feel that what happened was, and as you saw from the paperwork that you are looking through, the city was quite involved in everything Oregon Historical Society at one time. When we no longer needed building support money, I think we became more of a closed type society, and fewer people knew of us. In fact, I've lived in this community since 1972, and I didn't even know about it until 2014, when I was asked to become a trustee. So I think that probably many of you sitting up there are the same, correct? Did you hear about it when you were young? Okay.
We toured it from our schools,
Did you?
when it was still at
Okay,
Star School.
Very good, okay. So, we have a very aggressive year ahead. We're going to be talking to businesses. In fact, 9 of our trees have been supported by local businesses for the Parade of Trees this year, and we're recognizing all of them in our publications. But we'll be talking to our businesses of this community. We'll be talking to individuals. We'll be talking to other nonprofits and other organizations. We'll be doing more building rentals because we have a beautiful facility. It'll hold almost 50 people. And we have the tables and the chairs. We have a kitchenette, beautiful bathrooms, wheelchair accessible. And you'll see much more from the Oregon Jerusalem Historical Society than you've seen in the past.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions for us?
Mr. Wallenstedt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Filter, do you have an idea of what your fundraising goal would be? And do you have an idea of what your ask of us is? You're presenting numbers, but what is your ask?
I knew you were going to ask that,
Excellent.
and we're prepared. We think that over the next 3 years, in order to do the right thing for those buildings, we may need $75,000 to $100,000. We're not coming to you to ask for that. Maybe part of it.
Do you have an idea of what you'd like to?
What we-
It's
well,
easier to budget. if
The
we
one
know
thing that
what-
we need from you, consistently is at $7,100 a year. That helps us maintain what we need to do and operate. We may be coming to you for half of that, and it may have to be on a graduating scale. As you see.
I would just, as we go through our budgeting process, it's easier to try to budget when we have a
Right.
number that we try to.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
as you see, we do have money in the bank. And I really think that investments are just down right now. And I think that we'll have a much better membership in the next year or two than what we've had in the past. But we're going to need your help eventually. Okay?
Thank you.
We just wanted to let you know that ahead of time.
You know, Michelle, one thing that we can do to probably help with your bookings on your kitchen and your rental, maybe get in contact with our when we rent out our community room. And a lot of times it's booked and people ask us, where else did we go? We'd have referrals all the time.
You know something,
Yeah.
Mayor? You make a very good point. My opinion is that we really need to have a partnership with our rec department. You know, there was no rec department 50 years ago when we started this. But, you know, we partnered together 2 years ago during the pandemic when we did that tour.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
haunted house tour? And that was so successful. And we had, I think, over 150 participants, car participants in that. So I think by working together, we can really do a good job of
We
promoting
do
this
really
society.
book that pretty heavily, and it could come at a time where we start using it and we don't have it available as much. So we could certainly push
Yes, yes.
people your way.
Yes, I would appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake.
Mrs. Quiller, just an estimate, how many people tour that? would you
Tour the
say a
building?
year? How many?
How, are you asking how many tour the
Yeah, go
building?
Through the tour.
Well, we are open on a weekly basis, and we are open to any public tours or personal tours. So people can call and they can come in and tour the buildings. Now, during COVID, we were closed. But since we've been opened, we've had a number of people. I wish I could tell you how many come through, but I can't.
And also, kind of to get back what the mayor said, do the schools still bring buses of kids in? Because when I went to Star School, that was like the highlight of the year going to see it.
That's cool. We had the elementary school teachers out. I don't remember it was before COVID or after COVID. But anyway, they really weren't aware of our buildings when we had them out. They'd been sending their kids to Sylvania. So we're working on a plan to get them to come back. There's no reason why they have to go to Sylvania. They can stay right here and they can bus right here. You know, we do have a summer program that's always on a waiting list. It's called Children's History Camp. It's run by the Oregon school teachers. And children sign up for it. They pay $90 to come. It's a 4-day program. And we're looking to expand that as well because it's a very popular program.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. President.
Mr. Corniak.
First of all, Ms. Quilter, thank you for being here tonight. Ms. Tennant, all the members that are here and the trustees, it's always good to kind of hear a refreshing update of what's going on there. Question for you is this, and I don't know if you know this or not. Do you know the last time that the $7,100 amount was revisited? So I see in the last few years, it looks like it's been $7,100 for years. Okay.
I really don't know how long it's been.
Okay, probably something as we enter through budget discussions, probably something to revisit. Obviously, costs haven't stayed the same in that many years, so I think, we need to look at what that part of it is. Would the Historical Society, as part of its fundraising efforts towards maintaining and updating the buildings, bringing them back up to snuff, if you will, would they be interested in some kind of matching position from the city. I think we all have an interest in supporting things of this nature. Obviously with public partnerships, private partnerships, I think there's opportunities for that. I think that's a place that the city can get behind this as well. So I think that's well worth kind of futuring that dialogue of, how we truly partner in protecting and maintaining, that
We are
asset.
open for all discussions, and we're willing to work for it.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Quelser. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Moran.
President.
Just one, we have partnered with them along with different projects, the restroom,
You
a deal,
have.
the
Yes, over the
renovation of the big painting that years ago,
Yeah. And the
just
most
many.
recent, you just did the chairlift.
Right,
We
yeah,
are
I did.
fully handicapped accessible because of
ADA.
you.
ADA compliant.
Yes,
Yeah.
we just put a chairlift in the carriage house. And you guys paid for it.
We always tried to
Yes.
go
you
above
did.
and beyond what our
You always-
contribution
You're
was.
always there for us. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank
Mr.
you, Michelle.
President.
Thanks, Cassie. Oh, Ms. Pollitt, do you have something?
I do want to add, what I love most about this organization is that it's not looking for anything from the community, because the one thing that Mrs. Quilter didn't bring up was the things that we do for the community, which are with that haunted history tour. That was a free event. That was to everybody in the city of Oregon, and it was free. And they had gotten, free drawings into raffles for free prizes. And that was your community outreach event. Our Apple Butter Festival, or our Apple Butter Stir that we had this October goes towards a scholarship for Clay High School students. So I just want to reiterate that this organization is not only keeping its history alive, it also has a great outreach. So I can't say anything more about it. All I do is talk great things about the Historical Society. So thank you for listening.
And I do, just one more thing. This Saturday is a really big day for Brandville School Museum. And I put the 2 flyers in your booklet. Please come out, even if you can come out for just a short time and look at the activity that we have going on that day. We'll be there from 10 to 4, okay?
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you.
If you'd like to, is there any other questions for him? If you'd like to leave the meeting, you can do so.
Thank you. I think Bernie wants me home.
Thank
He calls me until I get there,
you. Council, before we get into items for passage, I need a motion to add item 179, 2022 to this week's agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish,
I'd like to add item 179, 2022 to today's agenda.
thank you, Mr. Davish. Second by Mr. Horniak. Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Item 179 will be added to this week's agenda. First item for passage tonight is item 173, 2022, which we did discuss at last week's committee of the whole meeting. Council, do you have any other questions or comments regarding item 173, 2022?
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves?
thank you. I did review it, and everything has been updated and corrected. So I have nothing further for this ordinance, but I just wanted to, everything has been updated, so I'm very happy with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will sign item 173, 2022 as ordinance 173, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
An ordinance amending the classification plan of the city of Oregon is approved by ordinance 69 of 2019 by updating and amending the job description of clerk of council and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves?
thank you. I move for passage of ordinance 173 of 2022 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Ms. Paula. Thank you, Ms. Paula. Ms. Evans, you take a roll call vote of council.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensek?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 173, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for passage is item 174, 2022, which we also discussed last week. Council, do you have any other questions or comments regarding item 174, 2022? Hearing none, I will assign item 179, 2022 as ordinance 174, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and the finance director to issue a purchase order to Ferguson Waterworks, 1501 Keyswater Road, Holland, Ohio, for the purchase of water line piping and appurtenances and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Deb.
I move for passage of ordinance 174, 2022, an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davitt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenseck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 174, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 175, 2022, which was also discussed last week. Council, do you have any other further questions or comments regarding item 175, 2022? Hearing none, I will assign item 175, 2022 as ordinance 175, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to issue a purchase order to Utility Truck Equipment Incorporated, 23893 US 23 South, Circleville, Ohio, for the purchase of a new forestry bucket truck to be used by the Oregon Street Department in an amount not to exceed $167,950 and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake.
I move for item 175/2022, declare an emergency as an ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Drake.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenseck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 175, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 176, 2022, which was also discussed last week. Council, do you have any other further questions or comments regarding item 176, 2022? Hearing none, I will assign item 176, 2022 as ordinance 176, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to sign change order number 1 final with Bowers Asphalt and Paving Incorporated, 6157 Walbridge Road, Walbridge, Ohio, in an amount of a net contract addition of $101,956.01 for 2022 roadway improvement program, project number 1, due to additional work and a net increase in quantities related to the 2022 roadway improvement program, and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 176 of 2022 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Paula. Thank you, Ms. Paula. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenseck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 176, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 177, 2022, which was also discussed last week. Council, do you have any other questions or comments regarding item 177? Hearing none, I will assign item 177 as ordinance 177, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing and directing the finance director to make supplemental appropriations and intrafund transfers on an as-needed basis for fiscal year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallenseck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move for passage of ordinance number 177 of 2022 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenseck.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, take a roll call vote of council.
Mr. Wallenseck?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 177, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Next item for consideration is item 178, 2022, which was also discussed last week. Council, are there any other questions or comments regarding item 178, 2022?
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
I don't know if it's in here, Nick, this fine print's kind of hard to see. Were you able to, get a itemized thing, a record as far as like police calls, 911 calls?
Yes, we were able to. I believe Joel sent that out in his weekly update.
Okay.
I have it here if you'd like to take a look at it.
Hold it up quick.
But,
Just turn, okay.
yeah,
All right, thank you. I didn't see it. I'm not good with the email either.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the overall cost is 14.6 million. That's what they're spending, and our percentage is 5.726.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Roman, I was actually going to bring that up too, because we did ask for that. I think in the future, we should have that before we pass an ordinance like this. I'd also like to see if you can include this in the comparison between us and other jurisdictions. Similar to Maumee, Sylvania Township. And basically, I think what we're talking about here is, I understand the structure of 911 area went up and caused an additional cost to everybody, but we're also being billed on call volume. And I'm kind of curious how our call volume stacks up with other jurisdictions. Now, a question for Mr. Major, which I didn't think about last week, but when we pass this ordinance, and if we do, are we passing this ordinance for $209,000 for a quarterly payment? Or are we passing this ordinance for $857,000 for the year and making a quarterly payment on it?
So this ordinance would allow for us to make the quarterly payments going forward, but that is also a budgeted item that has to pass in the budget. So we would pay the $209,000, but the budget has to pass in order for us to be able to pay the additional quarterly payments going into next year, 2023.
So I wouldn't see another quarterly ordinance like this to pass another 200 and some $1,000.
That is correct.
Okay. And the next question I have for you is, what if we voted no on this?
Well, we have a contract, and that was also in the email, and we would default in that contract. What the remedies would be, I would have to defer to Ms. Purpura.
Well, I guess my question is, I understand we have a contract, but, you know, I think several were set back last week, and I hate to bring this up again, but, I mean, this is $200,000 a year more than I anticipated. And I think other council people also saw that. So, you know, when you say we have a contract, do we have a contract for a specific amount? And can I expect that specific amount to go up or down next year regarding, you know, I'm just curious as what happened if council sat here and said, no.
Mr. President, there is a Ohio Revised Code law that requires us to pay this amount. It's actual Ohio law. If we choose not to pay it and council votes it down, then we're violating Ohio law. So it's not just breaching a contract, we're violating a law
Okay.
that is set in by statute.
Was that part of the original 911 law, or is that something separate? Is that a contract law that we're talking about?
That is something that was changed by the legislature when they ended up combining or consolidating the 911 services and not having all the individual PSAPs.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pora. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. President.
Mr. Horniak.
Just a question on this, and probably for Mr. Mazur, as much as any. So seeing that the amount that was being charged from the county in this, to Mr. Zale's point, was approximately $200,000 higher than estimated at the onset. I'll say kind of presented as a cost savings. Of course, we as a council did not support the consolidation. Have we had dialogues with them expressing the concerns about the escalation in costs? Is there an ability for us to be a part of that dialogue in how they're assessing the costs, what the costs are to keep this reined in?
Well, to start, as Melissa pointed out, there is an invoicing policy that was part of what was in the packet. So it's, you know, devil's in the details. Is there a conversation? I've had preliminary conversations with, I believe it's Ms. Mitchell, and also with Mr. Hireman with the county. I just brought up that, yes, we are aware that this is higher. This is a concern. And I think that my understanding is from the response that I got is that their initial expenses are higher than what they originally thought as well. I think they had to make some adjustments to salaries and wages, hired people. I think there was some of that going on. I don't have those details, and I will request more details from them as to why those expenses have increased. My understanding is it's not just a call volume issue that's associated with this increase in our invoice this year, but it's also an expense increase as well, which I think globally we're seeing that with inflation and higher
Sure.
wage increases across the board. But it doesn't change the fact that from your perspective right now, and I wasn't a part of those conversations, that it's higher than what it was originally anticipated, $200,000 higher, you know, meaning that there should have been my understanding is somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 savings annually. So I think, you know, doing the math, 500,000, was it, Paul?
Well, I know this, that about 3 to 4 years ago, our cost for dispatch was 1.1 million. So, and if you add in the recent rate increases the city had, it'd be around 1.2, 1.3 million. That would be our current cost for dispatch.
Yeah.
So still around between $300,000 and $400,000 cost savings, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Major. Just from what I read about this, I know the call volume problem, but they did increase the hierarchy within the system itself. They did bring in more supervisors. I have no idea. I can't criticize that. I don't know if they needed to do that or not. Apparently they did, but that's part of the cost too. But okay, I have no other questions on this. Any council, any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
Joe, Nick's right. Joel did send it to me. I lost it in the emails. I'm looking at the sheet now. It just has one number. It's not, to me, it's not real detailed. Hopefully, you know, there'd be a way on, you know, the dates, the times, and more itemization. Thank you. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Major?
And that'll be another item that I request then is more detailed information on the calls, even though there are some, they have it split out between EMS, fire, and law calls. And then they have totals. So, and then everybody's billed accordingly, proportionately, I should say. So, but count on it. I will ask for more details. When I get any answers, I will report back or send back to City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will assign item 178, 2022 as ordinance 178, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue purchase orders to Lucas County 911 Regional Council of Governments, 2144 Monroe Street, Toledo, Ohio, for providing 911 support services and declaring an emergency.
Council.
Mr. President,
Ms. Fala.
I move for passage of ordinance 178 of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Fala.
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Ms. Savage, would you take a roll call vote of council on ordinance 178, 2022?
Mrs. Powell?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 178, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. The next item for consideration this evening is being presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Law Director Melissa Pepora, item 179, 2022, and I will defer to Ms. Pepora. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
And counsel, you're aware this is legal counsel, it's a public defender. You know, you're aware in your Miranda rights, the latter part of it, it says you are entitled to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be supplied for you. So we are required to do this, and or it does have the details with our public defender's arrangement.
Thank you, Mayor and
Ms.
Mr.
Lepore.
President. This agreement is to enter with the Lucas County Public Defender Commission. It's the most cost-effective way in order for the city to provide attorneys to represent indigent defendants that have been charged with a criminal offense either under the Ohio Revised Code or the Oregon Municipal Code that carry the possibility of jail time. As you will see with the agreement, all the terms and conditions remain the same as last year in the 2022 contract. So for January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, the fee remains the same as the 2022 of $39,692. It provides for 2 licensed attorney to be at all court dates on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. There's 2 available for all the indigent defendants, and then there's also 1 attorney that is there for the afternoons on the Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. They've done an excellent job. I think they provide great representation to these individuals that, again, we're required to do. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Pepora. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake.
Ms. Pepora, roughly how many indigents go through Oregon court, you say, in a year? Just a ballpark.
I'm not a great math person, but I would say there's probably only 20% that have private attorneys. So you're looking at 80% of the individuals that come through are represented by our public defenders. So it is a large number.
Okay. Do you feel that the 39,000 is enough to cover it?
I think looking at the representation that they provide and the effectiveness or the cost savings to the city, I think it's reasonable. Should they ever provide something different, I think that could be taken under review. But I think they do a nice job, and I think it's a cost saving to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will assign item 179, 2022 as ordinance 179, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to enter into an agreement with the Lucas County Public Defender Commission to be in effect from January 1, 2023 to December 31, 2023 for counsel to represent indigent defendants charged with violations of municipal ordinances of the city of Oregon.
Council.
Mr. President,
Ms. Paulo.
I move for passage of ordinance 179 of 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Paulo. Second by Mr. Drake. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call vote for council?
Mrs. Paulo?
Yes.
Mr. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes, thank you, council. Ordinance 179-22 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. Council, this ends the agenda for the regular meeting. We will now move to the mayor's report.
I have no report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Major.
I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Ms. Pepora.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pepora. Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Drake.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Wallensack.
Thank you, Mr. President. As council members are aware, we did have a first budget hearing today before city council meeting. I want to thank Mr. Mazer and Mr. Nick Roman for their efforts putting the presentation together for us. We do need to schedule
our next budget hearing, which would be for Monday, December 5th. Mr. Mazur, is 5:30 or would you like 6 o'clock to start?
I'll defer to Mr. Roman. You need more than an hour?
I'm good at 6.
Okay, so December 5th, which would be next Monday at 6 o'clock in the conference room behind us, will be our next budget hearing, and I look forward to hearing the CIP budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molzak. Mr. Davish.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Pauloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing from my standing committee, but I do want to remind everybody that this Saturday at 5 PM, we will have our 2022 Christmas tree lighting, and that also includes DJ, Santa. There's going to be a dance recital from Nye Dance Productions, and all that starts at 5 right out here in the parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing from my standing committee. Thank you, Ms. Paul, for the reminder. I was kind of had that noted to do the same. Do have a question, though. There's some information sent out about repouring of a concrete pad at the new fire station. I didn't get any detail as to what made that necessary. Can somebody speak to that or
I
illuminate
can
that a little
start,
bit?
Mr.
I know there was damage to it.
Well, if you,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Roman would call them bird baths. There was dips and stuff, some improperly finished concrete defective that was cut out a couple different spots. and
There
then
was there was one delivery where the delivery
Oh,
truck
they dropped.
damaged some concrete and that
They
needed to be
dropped
replaced.
something on
There's
it.
no cost to us. It was all part of the contract, but there was damaged concrete. So.
All right, fair enough. Like I said, I had received a couple of questions of what
Yeah,
was
sure.
going on with the brand new building that we were repouring.
Yeah,
that, so
it-
just figured that was good to bring to attention. Outside of that, I have nothing.
They were
further, Mr.
holding, they were
President.
holding them to their standard, to the standard.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have nothing for my standing committee, but I would like to take a few minutes here to clarify somewhat of, I guess, a policy for people speaking in front of council. I think some people have kind of misconstrued what I have said to some degree. We never intended to ever deny anybody the right to speak before council. And we've not denied anybody the right to speak before council. We wanted to kind of streamline this a little better for people. I don't think people need to wait a week or 2 weeks to come into council and ask a question or ask something of city officials. We tried to explain to people that's all readily available on the website and the Facebook page. And I did speak with the administration here just the other day about actually making it even easier to access, more easily accessible on our Facebook page and our city website. So people could get questions answered or network with their councilman more. Part of the problem was we had people that wanted to come to council and not actually tell anybody what they want to talk about. And I think you should have a reason for why you want to come to council and speak. And I think as a council president, I have the right to know what you want to speak about. But that's not a huge deal for me. We're not going to question, we're not going to stymie anybody from speaking at a council. We're not going to do that. We never intended to, we're not going to. And I just need you to understand that. I actually did make that statement in the paper that I was not going to stop anybody from speaking. We should just like to clarify, but you can do it a better way. We're not stopping anybody from speaking in council. With that, I do have one person signed in to speak, Jim Ellerbush. If you'd like to come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Jim Ellerbush, 39 Cedarwood Drive. And I think you just responded to my questions tonight. I mean, this article read as an angry man was speaking. We start with the first paragraph and it says that you can no longer come before council to discuss an issue unless he approves it before the meeting. What does that mean? If you don't want to hear it, you're not in the mood, you're not going to hear it. If your mind's already made up on a matter, you're not going to hear it.
Is that a quote from me or is that?
Yes, it's right here in the
Okay.
paper.
Well, it kind of had to do, Jim, with the idea that we'd kind of like to know what you want to talk about. If you want to come in here and sell a vacuum cleaner for an hour, no, I'm not going to let you do that. okay? It's.
Well,
kind of
that's not
simple.
how this reads. I mean, it's
Uh,
like you're the ultimate,
Agreed,
the
agreed.
supreme leader.
I'm not the supreme leader, but I try to run a meeting here. That's
Understand.
all I do, okay?
And
I am
again,
not
you
the
know, I
supreme
go to
leader
the
of anything.
second paragraph and it says from this day forward. I mean, that's not a statement, that's a proclamation.
It was.
I mean, it's like, you're gonna decide, you're the supreme leader. I mean, this article just made you look bad. I mean, it was like an uppercut to the chin of democracy. You know, we have to come to you for your approval. Now, I agree, council business is a business, but it's the people's business. And you should hear the people's voices. You know, if we want to come up here and read chapters from the book 1984, you should sit there and listen to us. I mean, because we are the people, we're speaking to you. You should hear us. So basically, I think you've addressed a lot of this tonight, and I just wanted to let you know, this sounded like an angry man here. And I was worried that with the passage of Amendment 19, if you're going to censor people, I mean, that's just a fertile ground for Tammany Hall type politics. And I was really concerned with this article and the passage of 19. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellenberg. Thank you. Council, with that, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Drake. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Meeting is adjourned. Couldn't be more. Sit here.